What's up, everyone? Welcome to the video. We're here breaking down the NASCAR Cup Series Championship race at Phoenix Raceway for the last time this season. But we got the final four of Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, and Ross Chastain. We'll talk about Ross in a little bit, but that move last week was awesome. That was absolutely incredible. I've done that myself on NASCAR Heat 5, so it's actually cool to see it can work in real life. One of the best moves, probably the best move I've ever seen in the NASCAR race, especially in recent seasons. But yeah, this is sadly the last time we will see each other until next February. Now, fortunately enough for us, the NASCAR offseason is one of the shortest of all sports, and we're here almost all season long, or all year long, I should say. So yes, it sucks. This part of the year is never my favorite, but I had a fun time with you all. I do appreciate every single one of you that came by, stopped by, watched all the videos, watched the live stream, supported me, the exclusive content, donated on streams, whatever it may be, or even just leaving a comment. Every little bit does go a long way, so I truly do appreciate that. And I hope to see you all next season. This was definitely a learning year with the next-gen car. A lot of kinks with it. Hopefully they can get those figured out. We've had head injuries. Tires were awful this year. And just random things happening. It seemed like, when a lot of things went right for me, at the end of the race, like all my guys would just end up just exploding. It was an annoying year, but there was definitely a lot of good times. Had a couple of takedowns. Hopefully you all can say the same, but definitely learned a lot, and I'm hoping next year they can figure those things out so things go more smoothly and are more consistent on a weekly basis. And if you guys do end up enjoying today's free content, the one thing you can do in return is something very small, but leaving a like on the video. It's the last one of the year, so would appreciate that. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. I know the NASCAR season is over, but I do cover the NFL each and every single week throughout the week. And if you guys want to leave a comment down below, just tell me some well wishes. I'm going to miss you. I love the NASCAR DFS community. It does suck this time of the year. But on the bright side, when we do come back in February, the live streams will return, which I absolutely love. I'll be doing the stochastic content as well. So good times coming ahead, but we do have the dark times of winter here. But anyway, as previously mentioned, this is your championship race. We're at Phoenix. It's kind of an awkward looking track, but it's a short track in theory. It's only a mile in length, but it's also not like a short track like Martinsville. And it's bigger than Richmond, but I would say the most similar tracks to Phoenix are Richmond and New Hampshire, but I'm really just looking at all the short flat tracks. Richmond, New Hampshire, can throw in Gateway. I think now that might be our best comparison, actually, even though that's a newer track. And then obviously Martinsville, just because it's short and flat, but even then that's probably the furthest away as far as comparisons are concerned. Just about a mile in length, 312 laps, and that means nearly 220 total Dominator points. So yeah, Dominators are going to be pretty important this week, although with this being the championship race, I usually try to lean most of my lineups involving the guys in the final four because they're more than likely going to be running up front for the majority of the race. Now, two of them are actually qualifying quite poorly this weekend. I believe Christopher Bell's in 17th, Ross Chastain is in 25th. The other two, one's on the pole, and I think Chase is in the top five. If not in the top five, he is pretty close to it, but we'll find out in a second. So I'm probably going to at least have two of those guys in all my lineups, probably at least two. If you want to set up a group, if you're building 150, that might not be the worst way to go about it. I can see situations where only one makes it, but at the very least, you need at least one of the championship drivers, in my opinion. Is there a scenario where that does not work out? Sure, but I do think Bell and Chastain will be able to move through the field. I don't think anyone wants to be the driver that knocked out Christopher Bell on his way moving up to the field. They probably have an easier time passing drivers back there than some other guys would. So something to keep in mind, but definitely want to focus on the championship drivers, which, again, if you're reminded, that's Ross, Chase, Logano, and Christopher Bell. But yeah, Dominator is going to be pretty important. I would say at least two per lineup, and we'll move on from there. And for one of my overall thoughts on the pricing this weekend, they kind of did what I expected. The final four drivers are the four most expensive on the slate. That does correspond with Vegas as well, so no real surprise there. There's a couple guys I think might be a little bit too cheap. Ryan Blaney stands out to me at $9,100. Thought he was going to get at the pole, but Joey Logano, of course. I hate Joey. I do. I really wanted to play Blaney in the pole at that price point, because it's going to be really easy to fit in some other Final Four drivers with him. Joey stole that from us, so shame on him. But everybody else, we'll talk about it. Some guys will pop up, but we'll wait until we get there just so I'm not rehashing all these things when we get to their actual names. So also, if you want access to the sheet, link down below for the Patreon. Although, keep in mind, last race of the season, but I do cover other sports as well. So if you go with the All Sports package, you got the NBA each and every single day, which I do cover, and the NFL each and every single week. So tons of extra content on there, even though this is the last race of the season. So come and check it out if you want. Optimizers, ownership projections, and all that fun stuff. And an awesome Discord community. Everybody will be nice to you for the most part and answer your questions. Anyway, up top, we have Chase Elliott, $10,900. He's starting in 5th. Did open up as the odds-on favorite to win this race with Joey Logano qualifying on the pole, he actually moved into tie with Chase. I want to say Elliott was plus 250, dropped to plus 300 with Joey. I believe I'm remembering that correctly, but Chase is my pick to win. Heading into this weekend, after last week, I was like, well, my two favorites are going to be Bell and Chase Elliott. Elliott first, Bell second. That did correspond with the opening Vegas odds. That has obviously switched just a little bit here, but I'd be kind of shocked if Chase isn't our champion this year. I mean, he's killed it at all track types this year. He's been really good at the short flats as well. Practice-wise, it was okay. I mean, short run wasn't great, but got better in the long run. But 10th in the 20 lap was a little bit odd. But he's pretty good at Phoenix. I mean, averaging the second most DraftKings points per race here, one of the best average running positions. I believe the best driver rating. Has a win under his belt, 3 top 5s. Second most laps led per race, and the second most fast laps, just behind Denny Hamlin. If you're looking at some of the short flat tracks this year, 11th at Martinsville, although he ran better than what that would suggest. 5th at Richmond, 2nd at New Hampshire, 21st at Gateway, 10th at Martinsville, but again, was a lot better there than what the number would suggest. And 14th at Richmond. If you're looking at the short flat tracks this year, we have a 7-race sample size, averaging the second most DraftKings points per race, the third best average running position, and overall has been very good, the second most laps led per race. So yeah, I love Chase, going to be jamming him in majority of my lineups, and I honestly think he will be the champion. So if I think that, well, that means I think he won and probably dominated, so it makes a lot of sense to me. Christopher Bell, $10,700. He's starting in 17th. And honestly, the way I'm looking at this, I think it would make sense to pair 2 of the championship drivers together, but one of them being up front and one of them offering PD. That's very easy to do so, because you could go Elliott with Bell, Elliott with Ross, or you could go Joey with Bell, Joey with Ross Chastain. I think that actually makes sense correlation-wise. Obviously, I will have lineups together with Chase and Logano, but I do think that will be more contrarian, which could pay off in tournaments. But I'm really just going to be mixing and matching these guys for the most part. But speaking of Bell here, I'm really glad he made the Final Four. He was kind of someone asked me on a live stream months ago, they're like, who's your Final Four? I'm like, well, I think Bell's got a chance. I know not everyone would probably agree with that at the time, and I wasn't completely sold on it. I definitely thought Denny Hamlin would make it, but in Kyle Busch before he just fell off a cliff. But it was awesome to see Bell in there. I mean, he's been good everywhere this year. I know he's kind of the youngest driver of the bunch in there, but I mean, the guy's been legit this season. If you're looking at the past 2 races at short flat tracks, 1st at Martinsville, 2nd at Richmond, 1st at New Hampshire, even 9th at Gateway and 6th at Richmond earlier in the year. I mean, Bell's been awesome. And he offers you some PD upside. I know practice wasn't good whatsoever, but I have a hard time seeing Bell completely struggle during the race. He's definitely going to get Joe Gibbs' best stuff this weekend, so I am perfectly fine with Bell here. Joey Logano, $10,500. He's starting on the pole. Moved up to tied with Chase Elliott with the best odds to win this race in Vegas. Some solid overall times in practice. Good chance he's going to dominate this race. I mean, starting in the pole is just easy access. And we've seen the short flat tracks this year where, yeah, track position's usually been pretty important. And Joey should be able to pay off that. And he's got the best pit stall as well. And he's really good at Phoenix in addition to that. Like, it's not like this is a track that he's never struggled at. And he just randomly got the pole. He's averaging the most DraftKings points per race here, the best average finish, tied with Kevin Harvick, the best running position, second best driver rating, 3 top 5s. He has a win and the most dominator points here. So yeah, Joey Logano is pretty freaking good at Phoenix. He won at Gateway, which I think is a very similar track. 2nd at Martinsville and some other overall really good numbers. So yeah, I'm loving Joey. For playing cash games, he's probably going to be the first guy you're plugging in. Ross Chastain, $10,400. He's starting in 25th. Pretty similar play to Christopher Bell here. Pretty fast in practice, although he's not been as good at the short flat tracks as these other guys have been this season. So I would say he's probably my 4th favorite as far as finishing position is concerned. But at his starting position, he definitely offers you a very nice floor. But at the same time, I think I do prefer the other 3 over Ross. But that does not mean I'm not going to have exposure to him. If I'm playing 3 max, I'm probably getting him into obviously at least 1 lineup, but there's a decent chance he could make 2. I like him, but I still think I prefer Bell a little bit more. And then obviously Elliott and Logano. But not saying he's a bad play, just saying preference-wise, he's probably my least favorite of the bunch. But I still like him over guys like Larson, Hamlin, Byron, if that makes sense. And speaking of Larson, he's starting in 4th. The problem with him is, if I'm going to be heavier on these Final Four drivers, I'm just running out of money. I can't afford a guy like Kyle Larson, so I don't think he's going to suck or anything. He's not bad at Phoenix. Short flat tracks have never really been his bread and butter. Obviously, he was good at Martinsville last weekend, but it's just really a matter of I'm not going to be able to afford him a lot. So I'll tell you right now, I'm probably not going to have too much Kyle Larson. Denny Hamlin, if this was not a Final Four championship race and he was starting 21st below 10K at Phoenix, a short flat track, I would have a ton of him, but it's just the fact that, like I said, I'm going to be heavy on the guys that are pretty expensive up there, so I'm just running out of money. If I'm building 20 lineups to 150, yeah, that's when I start filtering in guys like Denny Hamlin. And I'm not saying you have to play 2 Final Four drivers. You could obviously play an Elliott with the Denny Hamlin. I am fine with that. I'm just saying I'm trying to think through it here, where if I'm going to have 2 Final Four drivers in a lot of my lineups, I'm probably not going to be able to get to as much Hamlin as maybe some other guys will be able to. But practice was all right, 6 in the 5 lap. I mean, I don't think he's going to suck, but I don't think he's going to get up front or anything. William Byron, $9,700. And sorry if my voice sounds weird. I can't breathe. My throat's a little bit sore, so I do apologize about that. But pretty fast here. He was second in the 20 lap, 4th in the 15 lap, 6th in the 10. Been pretty good at the short flat tracks. And looking at his numbers this season, he actually won at Martinsville earlier in the year, 3rd at Richmond, 19th at Gateway, 11th, 11th, and 8th. I think he's going to be a top 5 contender, but as far as getting up front and dominating, not really going to see it happening. I just can't really see him passing Elliott, and I can't really see him passing Logano. And even if he has the opportunity to pass Chase Elliott at some point, is he going to take that just because he knows that Chase Elliott's going to have to be up front? So don't really see Byron dominating in this one. Martin Truex Jr., $9,500. He's starting in 12th. Again, if this was not a championship race, I'm probably more interested in Truex because I believe I actually played him at Phoenix earlier in the season. If I remember correctly, at lower ownership. I think he did well. I might be lying to you. I might be thinking of last year. But obviously, at a short flat track, Truex is always going to be a bit interesting. And at Phoenix, he's got some pretty overall good numbers. Looking at practice, though, he really struggled. Starting in 12th, I thought he was going to qualify a little bit worse than that. I don't really see him getting inside the top 8 here. Don't see him dominating, so at $9,500, probably gonna be a bit of a pass. I think he's a better play over on FanDuel at $8,800. Kyle Busch, pretty similar play, but he's starting 10 spots further back, and he was a lot faster in practice. Plus, Phoenix is a great track for him. And starting in 22nd, practice times of 3rd, 4th, 10, and 6th. I know it's been some rough times for Kyle Busch recently, but at $9,300, I will definitely try to get to some Kyle Busch here. Now, in 3 max, am I gonna get there? We will see if he happens to fit my build with, say, like a Chastain and Elliott combined. If I can get the Kyle Busch, I wouldn't mind it, but I'll probably have to get a couple pump plays in there. But I think with the practice times mixed in with the price tag and the starting position, he definitely makes some sense. Ryan Blaney, $9,100. He's starting in 2nd. And man, I really wish he was on the pole. Unfortunately, Joey ruined that. And since he's starting on the front row with his teammate, I don't really see him being too aggressive. I don't think he wants anything to happen to Joey here, so he's probably going to fall in line to 2nd place. But even then, at $9,100, if he can steal some fast laps here and there, if anything happens to Joey by some chance at the beginning. I mean, Blaney's got a really good card this week. Almost got the pole. He was pretty much first in everything in practice, 2nd in the 1 lap, only behind Ross Chastain. But he's definitely got the best card this weekend. And it's a real shame he didn't make the championship race because I think this would have been a really good opportunity for Ryan Blaney to potentially take home a championship trophy, but obviously got to win races during the regular season to make that happen, and that just was not the case. But yeah, I mean, I like him as a tournament play. I like the price point projection-wise. He doesn't look too bad. It's last week of the season, so let me pull up what I have him projected for. These could change by the time the green flag drops tomorrow, but yeah, I'm at around 52.3 points. That's 5.8x. That's pretty good, actually. That's only behind the Final Four drivers, so I'm definitely going to have some Ryan Blaney exposure. Can definitely be a top 5 guy for the majority of the race. If he picks up fast laps here and there, or maybe gets up front at some point, I believe he did dominate this race last season. He's not a bad play at all in tournaments. Dropping down to the 8K range, a couple of fast cars in practice here. Tyler Reddick, $8,900. I think he's a better FanDuel play, that $8,500 price point. He's starting at 11th, top 5 across the board in practice. Looking at his short flat track numbers this year, though, haven't really been too impressive. The best finish we've seen since Richmond earlier this season is in 12th place. So I'm probably not going to be huge on Tyler Reddick, but overall at Phoenix, he hasn't been terrible. He does have that top 5 finish, but I think I'd rather get to Kevin Harvick, who I can trust a lot more at Phoenix, because this is a track he absolutely crushes. It was fast in practice, which is always nice to see from Kevin Harvick. I like the price point starting in 7th. It's not like he's a massive PD play, so I'm hoping the ownership is a little bit lower. But if you're playing tournaments, I think Harvick's a sneaky top 5 guy here. 6 top 10s here the past 6 races, 2 top 5s. Some good dominator points. Been more of a fast lap guy than a lap sled guy, but I will take fast laps in a 5th place, 6th place finish from him at $8,700. So I do like Kevin Harvick. Does have a win under his belt at a similar track at Richmond, 5th in New Hampshire, 2nd in Richmond earlier in the season. He's also fast at Phoenix at the beginning of the year as well. So I think Kevin Harvick's a fine tournament play. Daniel Suarez, I know he's starting all the way back in 28th on FanDuel. He's only $7,200, so it's a bit easier to get there. But on DraftKings, I'm probably rather getting to a guy like Reddick and Kevin Harvick. He was just really slow in practice. And obviously all the juice is going to Ross Chastain this week. So I'm not going to be huge on Daniel Suarez, to be honest. It might feel a bit trappy here starting in 28th. And if you look at the Vegas odds, by far the worst odds of this group. So not going to be huge on Suarez, even though the place differential upside is there. Chase Briscoe, 8,200 bucks. He's starting in third. Almost made some magic work last week. Unfortunately, could not seal the deal. Pretty slow in practice, but he did qualify third. I think he's going to have top 10 to speed in this one. He actually won this Phoenix race earlier in the season. So as a tournament play, I get it. More so a large field guy. I'd rather get to Kevin Harvick personally, though, at a similar price point. And I'd rather get to Alex Bowman starting in 24th, making his return after a few week absent. Noah Gragson was filling in. He's only 8,000 bucks. I like him over on FanDuel at that price point quite a bit. Top 20 speeds in practice. Pretty good at the short flat tracks. Looking at his numbers overall at Phoenix, 3 top 15s, 5 top 20s. If you're just looking for a mid-range PD play and good equipment, Alex Bowman definitely makes some sense here. Wish he was a little bit faster in practice, but I think it's fine. Moving down to the 7K range, Austin Cindric showed some speed in practice, top 10 across the board besides being 11th in the 15 lap. But he's actually been really good at the short flat tracks recently. I know he finished 27th at Martinsville, but besides that, 12th at Richmond, 13th in New Hampshire, 11th at Gateway, 11th at Martinsville, 20th at Richmond. I don't think Cindric's a terrible play. Definitely going to be lower owned than a guy like Alex Bowman. So if you're looking for a tournament pivot there, I don't think Cindric's a bad option there, especially since he showed some speed in practice. AJ Allmendinger, he's had some speed in recent weeks. He's starting in 16th, only $6,000 over on FanDuel. Kind of practiced right around where he qualified, so I feel like the ceiling's kind of capped on him. But he did finish 10th at Gateway earlier in the season, had a lot of speed there, which I think is going to be pretty similar to Phoenix this week. 16th in New Hampshire, wasn't great at Martinsville, but that's a bit of a different track. So I think there's definitely some top 15, top 12 upside. The problem is he's starting in 16th. He's a very similar play to these three, Austin, Dillon, Cindric, so there's not really much separating them. I'll probably end up having some pretty similar exposure on all three, to be honest, although I think Dillon might be my lowest just due to the fact that he was a lot slower in practice. I mean, 30th in the 1 lap, 20th in the 5, 29th in the 10. I mean, his teammate Tyler Reddick had a lot more speed. The thing with Dillon, though, is he's usually just boringly consistent, which is fine at his price point, but 34th at Martinsville. Besides that, though, 16th at Richmond, 23rd at New Hampshire, 15th at Gateway, 3rd at Martinsville, 10th at Richmond. I think he's going to be hanging around that top 15 for the majority of the day. Is that amazing at his price point? No, but it's not going to kill you either. And if he gets into the top 10, you'll have a pretty good low in tournament play, so I don't mind that. But I would prefer Bubba Wallace between the two. A couple $100 cheaper here. He's starting several spots further back in 23rd. And short flat tracks, the past 2 races, not too bad. 9th, 13th, and 3rd. Looking at what he did in practice, was a little bit better than Austin Dillon. 11th in the 1 lap, 10th in the 5, then 18th in the 10 and 15. Was incredible in the long run. Did fall off a little bit there, but Bubba's definitely shown a lot of improvement this season, and I do think he should be able to finish inside the top 20, probably be a top 15 contender. At his price point for where he's starting, that's not bad at all. Eric Almirola, $7,200. He's starting in 13th. And every single time we're at a short flat track, we have to have some interest in Eric. I know he disappointed last week. He was looking really strong early on. He was running inside the top 10, then just late in the run he fell off, which was really unfortunate because I had a ton of Eric Almirola. But he's very good at Phoenix. 5 top 15s here. The past 6 races, 2 top 10s, has an average finish of 12th place, average running position of 13th, which is kind of right on par where he qualified. So I do worry about the potential ceiling here because top 10 is usually a tall task for Eric Almirola, but did finish 5th at Gateway early in the season, 8th at Richmond. So I do think the upside is certainly there. And if you're looking for lower on tournament play, I do like Eric quite a bit. Like if I had to pick between Cindric, Dinger, Dillon, Bubba, and Almirola, I'm probably ranking that Bubba and Almirola up top, and then the rest are kind of similar. So I do like Eric this week just because I think the ownership's going to be really low, and he's definitely got top 10 potential. Brett Keselowski, $7,000. He's starting at 18th. Obviously, some very good numbers here at Phoenix. You got to keep in mind, though, Penske equipment, and he has made the Final Four in recent seasons. Practice wasn't anything incredible. It was kind of on par with what we saw from Almirola, Bubba Wallace, Dinger, and Cindric, but he's starting the furthest back of the bunch, not named Bubba Wallace, so there is some extra PD upside mixed in there. And he was also second in the 25-lap run in practice. I know not barely anybody did that. Harrison Burton, Ty Gibbs, and just Chase Elliott. So it's not much to brag about, but 12th in the 20, and then 12th in the 1, and 14th in the 5. So Keselowski's a fine play. I actually think the 7K range is kind of loaded of good tournament plays, hybrid cash plays with guys like Bubba Wallace. But I do think this is a decent range if you kind of fall into that for last piece fits. I'm actually fine with all of them. 6K range, we have Eric Jones, $6,800. He's starting in 30th. Didn't really blow you away in practice, but he's had a lot of speed just about everywhere this year. I like the price point. I could see him being very popular as a cash play, but there's certainly some pivots they get to in tournaments, like the guy above him, Keselowski and Almirola, so I wouldn't go too crazy on Jones. But if you are playing cash games, he is going to project pretty well. Chris Buescher, $6,700. He's starting in 19th. He wasn't amazing in practice, but kind of looks like a fringe top 15 car. If you're trying to go away from some of that Eric Jones chalk, Busher, I think he's got a better chance of probably staying on the lead lap longer just because he's got better track position to work with. And if we're looking at Busher's numbers at Phoenix, they're really not that bad. Average finish of 17.7. Running position isn't as great, but does have 5 top 20s the past 6 races here. Finished 15th at Richmond earlier in the season, 3rd at Richmond even more recently, 17th in New Hampshire. Unfortunately, would not get a race from him at Gateway, which I would have really liked to have seen. But he's all right. Michael McDowell going to pass here starting in 20th. He's just not been that great at the short flat tracks. I know he finished 18th at Gateway, but other than that, 30th, 25th, 28th, 29th, not going to be huge on Michael McDowell here, plus his numbers specifically at Phoenix. Only one top 20 in the past few seasons here, so probably a good pass. Plus, he was not fast in practice. Ricky Stenhouse has been awful with the short flat tracks this year, so I'm going to pass here, just kind of doing what he always does. I mean, qualifies poorly, practices poorly, and the numbers are just awful this season. I know the past 2 races got a little bit better, 23rd, 22nd, 22nd, but 32nd, 27th, 28th. And it just hasn't really been the best of times for him at the short flat tracks this year, so I just think there's better plays to get to. I'd rather play Justin Haley, $6,200. He's starting in 26. At least he showed a little bit more speed in practice. Not by much, but looks like he could have a potential top 25 car rather than Ricky Stenhouse. Looking like he has a fringe top 30 car. Cole Custer starting extremely high, $6,000 in 9th place. Practice, pretty much a fringe top 20 car. I don't really see a reason to want to play Custer starting this high. Does have a couple of top 15s here, though, at Phoenix. Finished 15 last week at Martinsville, but for where he's starting, that's a tough ask. Very tough ask. I'd rather play Justin Haley. I'd rather probably play Ricky Stenhouse over Cole Custer, to be honest. Dropping down to the 5K range, we have Ty Gibbs, $5,800. He's starting in 10th. 36 at Richmond, 20th at Martinsville at the 2 short flat tracks he has ran so far this season. But practice wasn't terrible for him. But he only starts one spot further back than Cole Custer. And practice was just pretty on par, though, in the long run. Did show a little bit more speed. So if I had to pick between the two, I'd side with Ty Gibbs, but I'm probably not going to play either. Ty Dillon is definitely the safer option of the bunch. And then it's kind of the same old story for Ty Dillon, where he doesn't show any speed in practice, but he usually finishes better than where he qualifies, just due to the fact that just doesn't really fall into too much attrition. Although at the shorter flat tracks compared to the intermediates this year, it's definitely not been as good. 32nd at Martinsville, but 17th at Richmond, 33rd at New Hampshire, 27th at Gateway, 23rd, 24th. If he just survives the race, he can get you a top 28 finish. It's not terrible at his price point, but it's also not amazing. Harrison Burton starting way too high for me to consider. I just can't do it. I apologize. Corey LaJoie, $5,300. A little bit faster in practice than the previous 2 we just talked about. Burton, I'm really surprised that Burton qualified so well because he was so poor in practice. Ty Dillon makes more sense because he was poor in practice and qualified poorly. But LaJoie, 22nd compared to 32nd as far as speed is concerned in practice for him and Burton. So I think LaJoie is definitely the better play between the bunch and just has a lot more safety net as well. Todd Gillen's kind of in the same boat as LaJoie, but didn't show as much speed. And then after that, I really can't consider playing these guys. Now, I will say I ran the optimizer a little bit before we actually did the video, and these scrubs were popping just to fit in these final 4 drivers. So I might open up the scrubs a little bit to like 3 to 5% in a 150 max build. But if I'm playing single entry or a 3 max, there's no way I can roster guys like Castle, Ware, McLeod, Smithley, and feel confident about it. With that being said, guys, that's all I got for you this week, and unfortunately for the rest of the season. Sorry I was a little bit sick recording this. Hopefully I didn't sound too stupid or mess anything up. Do apologize about that, but just want to say another thank you everyone that watched the videos all season long, donated the live streams, watched the live streams, commented, whatever it may be. I do enjoy all of your presence, so I'm hoping to see you all next season, hopefully for another fun year. Hopefully you all had fun this season, but I wish you all the best, and I'll see you all next time.